Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to thank you and your staff for their hard work on all the issues that are before us today, and to thank the members of this committee on both sides who've been very involved, as they have their staffs, in getting these issues on the agenda and hopefully allowing us to process them and report them out. Clearly, a lot of the attention has been on the committee's work to reauthorize the expiring satellite television law, our Satellite Television Access and Viewers' Right Act, or STAVRA, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to discussing that bill with our colleagues as we consider the legislation today. I'm also very pleased we'll be passing out of committee today our joint bill to reauthorize and improve the Surface Transportation Board. In my view, the STB reauthorization represents a modest, common-sense approach to making the board more effective and efficient, which will benefit both the shippers and the railroads. And as we've done since we began drafting the bill, we'll continue to work with our colleagues and key stakeholders to ensure that we have a package of reforms that enjoy broad support going forward. Mr. Chairman, in addition to these sort of major items, I also want to briefly mention a few of the other items on the agenda. In a first for the Commerce Committee, we will be considering our bill to reauthorize the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. This small but important agency has been previously authorized as part of larger bills considered by the Judiciary Committee, but as the Senate Committee with jurisdiction over sports, it's appropriate for us to reclaim and improve the authorization. We'll also be taking up a bipartisan bill sponsored by Senator Nelson to ensure child-proof packaging for liquid nicotine. Although I understand there may be some stakeholder questions about the clarity of jurisdictional lines between the CPSC and the Food and Drug Administration, I believe there's broad agreement about the need to protect young children against an easy-to-open poisonous substance that's become more widely available with the advent of e-cigarettes. Today's agenda also includes another common-sense measure, the E-Label Act, introduced by Senator Fisher and by you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will make it easier and less expensive for innovators to comply with FCC labeling requirements. Finally, Mr. Chairman, before we turn to a more in-depth discussion of STAVRA and our STB reauthorization bill, I would like to note that we will be acting on the nominations of current NTSB member Christopher Hart to head the agency and Admiral Manson Brown to be the Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Environmental Observation and Prediction at NOAA. Both of these nominees have long records of distinguished public service, and I expect they'll be confirmed by the full Senate. I also look forward to welcoming Mr. Hart back to the committee in the near future to testify about the important work of the NTSB and some of the recent investigations that it has launched. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I am prepared to move to consideration of the agenda.
Sounds good.
And as I noted in my opening, and I appreciate the comments that have been made by our colleagues here, I'm pleased that we're moving this forward, and I appreciate the concerns that have been raised by railroads, by members of this committee, and would assure my colleagues that this is straightforward legislation that's not designed to re-regulate the railroads. I think that's been claimed by some. But I think we'd all agree it makes sense to allow Surface Transportation Board members to talk to each other, which they can't do today. They're currently barred from that unless there's a formal public board proceeding. I think it also makes sense to enable both the railroads and the shippers to voluntarily enter into arbitration when it comes to rate or service problems. And I think much of the angst that I've heard from shippers over the years could be solved if we provided an avenue to resolve concerns on the front end before they become larger issues that turn into multi-year, standalone cost rate cases that cost both the railroads and the shippers millions of dollars. And I'm familiar with some of those that go on literally for 7, 8, 9 years. And so Chairman Rockefeller and I certainly differed on some of the rail reform measures, other things that we've discussed, but we do agree that it makes sense to provide targeted improvements to the STB to ensure that it functions as the regulatory body that Congress envisioned while not stifling the railroads with additional regulations that can reduce infrastructure investment in what we all know is a very capital-intensive industry. So we've had a lot of interest in this since we discussed it, introduced it. In fact, we've had letters from 70 organizations and associations that are supporting the bill. But I certainly recognize that this is always a work in progress and look forward to working with the members of this committee and with the stakeholders as the process moves forward to consider how we might improve and strengthen and make the legislation better. But I can assure you that there probably are very few states in the country that are as rail dependent as South Dakota is, so much so that in 1980 our state levied a temporary sales tax to acquire the railroads to keep them operating in our state. And we contracted for operations with than Burlington Northern Railroad because it is so important in our state. So I understand the importance of rail service to this country, and we want to make sure that it is stronger and more robust, and make sure that those who are in the shipper community in this country have a way of getting the concerns that they have heard, and I think these reforms help do that. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate our comments, and I guess at this point I would make the motion that the substitute amendment to agenda item number 8, which is Senate Bill 2777, the Surface Transportation Board Reauthorization Act of 2014, be adopted, and that the bill be reported as modified with an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Mr. Chairman, I echo what's already been said, and thank you for your great leadership. We will miss you and your voice and your leadership and your height on this committee. Us tall guys have to hang together. I think that what this process has proven and demonstrated is that things can happen in a bipartisan way. And, you know, this process started a long time ago on the Stella reauthorization with Senators Wicker and Senator Pryor, and back in February, actually. And so we've been working at it, as you said, for a long time. These are difficult issues. A lot of the stuff hasn't been touched in a long time. And some of us believe it's time for some update and some modernization. And although our big idea, local choice, got shelved in the near term, I think it started a debate about reforms that we need to be thinking about in terms of a better future and ideas that are pro-consumer, pro-community, and I hope that this will continue as we head into the end of this year and then in next year, and however things turn out this fall, that we can pick this up and really work in a way that will allow us to make good progress toward good policy that's good for consumers in this country. And so I want to thank you for your leadership, and I think that's all we have, and unless anybody else has anything else.